using your inbox like a social media feed. Like you just go in there and you like surf around for interesting looking subject lines that you want to read the email of. But you're the CEO of Rocketbook.
Let me clarify.
You got to get through these things because someone might have written you something important, and like that's an understatement. Welcome back to the Betterment experiment, where we make your craziest productivity dreams come true. I'm Jake Epstein.
And I'm Joe LeMay. Thanks for making it back. Each episode on the Betterment experiment, we debate 2 extreme life hacks. You vote on which one we implement at vote.getrocketbook.com. Then we experiment on ourselves, and we report back on the next episode how it went. So later this episode, we're going to debate extreme email management. But first, let's talk about last week's hack.
Oh, God. Last episode's hack. And I just want to apologize ahead of time because it was my idea and it was rough. So last time, we debated 2 very different extreme focus methods. It was the Pomodoro method versus everyday unplugging. You voted, and everyday unplugging won with a whopping 75% of the vote. So this is what we did. In order to descramble our minds, Joe and I went into the settings of our iPhone and we set the screen time app limit to 0 minutes, which basically turned our phones into 2005 feature phones, aka paperweights. And holy crap, was it painful.
You know, I think you probably experienced pretty similar stuff as me. I think one of the things that really got me was when I got into my car and I knew I needed to find a dry cleaner around 7 a.m. that was open. Something on my commute, I hadn't really found one yet. And I'll tell you what, my dry cleaning's still in my car.
That's the thing, man. Like we went really extreme on this one. Until, well, I'll tell you what. I'll start with the positives. Let's start off positive here.
Let's try.
Disabling social media and news and work and even your Spotify and podcasts for a few days was totally liberating. And I really think there's something there because it was at the little things, man. You know, just not checking my phone constantly or not being able to check my phone constantly.
Yeah, man. I mean, even right now, I'm checking my phone less.
Yeah.
Of it. Yep.
Yeah, it's building the habit. So I'm talking about even getting a coffee, those 5 minutes in between meetings. I found myself looking out a window or talking to a colleague about, you know, like what's going on in my life or their life. And so all these little, you know, few minutes here and there that you think that you're like focused, tuned into the real world, you're not. You're just like checking your phone habitually.
So net, you'd say improved your life over the last, we did it about 3 days. We did it more than 3 days.
Okay, that element improved my life, and we'll get back to that. Right. But the way we did it was so extreme that it really caused some problems in the other parts of my life. I mean, I was at Whole Foods, you know, trying to get my $200 Whole Foods bill down to $195 with my stupid Amazon code. And they asked me for my code. I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not using apps. And they were like, what? And so obviously I didn't print it out and bring it with me.
I swear to God, it was probably the first time in 6 months I stood in line at a Starbucks. Like I wasted 10 minutes easily. Like there's no way it makes sense to just waste 10 minutes a day on principle to wait for coffee.
Yeah, I almost had to stop this whole thing early because I was almost late to pick up Hunter, my son, because Lisa was going to kill me. I went to take the train home, and the commuter rail tickets in Boston are all on your phone, and so I had to race over to the ticket counter and scream at the lady to give me a ticket to get on the train because they're very high security at North Station, so I wasn't going to be allowed on without picking up a ticket first.
Yeah, speaking of kids, I have no pictures or videos of my kids or my dog or family life or my wife in the past 3 days because I couldn't use my camera app.
Yeah,
so
we went a little bit hard. Yeah. We went a little bit hard.
Yeah, I'd say like this is, you know, real pain, real benefits is how I'd sum this up. And most of the pain came from just the extreme way that we did it, rounding out some corners, doing it in a more moderate way. It will probably lead to the same benefits, I'd say. I definitely got some benefits out of it. So I really felt that I got more use out of those very precious morning brain calories. Those are the ones that I really think are when you're most productive and have a few breakthroughs or just sort through your garbage. when I took some morning walks, instead of popping in some headphones where I could crowd out all the stuff that had been keeping me up at night, all that mental to-do list, my aspirations, my regrets, all that stuff, boom, they were right in my face, and I just had to deal with them, get back to my desk, write them down, and I just couldn't use podcasts and music on Spotify to distract myself from
That's
that.
a whole thing. Right? Is that just us, Ben? Like just having theme music so that you don't have to deal with walking over broken glass with bare feet, right?
Yeah,
because that's
I mean,
what it feels like.
You think it's just to deal with boredom, but I think it's really to distract yourself and evade all that crap in your head, man. And just having to face that and, man, get into that dirty closet and try to deal with it
Yeah.
for the first time in months.
Yeah, that's like a whole. There's a whole thing there.
Not easy, but I think beneficial. I also went to bed easier because, the first night, actually, I reached for my phone a few times just out of instinct, but there was no more, reaching for Gmail, Instagram, YouTube, things to distract myself before I,
No
fall
TV?
asleep.
You got a TV in your room?
Nope.
Hey,
Nope.
good for you.
So,
good for you.
so there's that. So that was good. I would say that here's something you're gonna think I'm a little crazy about this, but I think it's true. So in the past 3 days, I lost about 2.5 pounds, and I want to attribute it to this.
Yeah.
I think it's because of this.
All right.
And here's why. So I remember a study, right, and you might have heard of this, when they asked people to remember a series of numbers and then asked them if they'd like a snack and showed them like an apple and a piece of cake. The more numbers they asked them to try to keep in their head, the more likely they were to reach for that cake. Showing that the more information you're trying to process, keep, retain, blah, 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 all of that cognition is actually competing with your willpower for like brain calories. And I think by effectively shutting off most of that input, the YouTube, the podcast, etc., which I tell myself over and over that I'm learning something on these podcasts, I'm going to learn, etc. I think it showed me that now I had a willpower brain calorie reserve left that I didn't have before, and I was just more effective at the diet that I've been trying to exercise for the past 6 months.
God, I gotta say, I did start off thinking you were crazy. You just made a pretty compelling case. You cited a study and everything. So, all right.
Don't ask me who did the study.
You might be right.
Yeah.
You might be right.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I think I did kind of eat healthier.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's let's get to our big takeaways for everyday unplugging, because I think we, for the most part, overlap here, right? So there's no point in getting away from the basic apps in life, right? Like your Starbucks ordering app, it just saves you time. A calculator app, Google Maps. I mean, these are things that you just sort of need to navigate the real world. And
Turn off those notifications, though. Starbucks
Yes.
is notifying me something about like something for lunch today. You don't need that in your life.
I completely agree. There's only two notifications you need. Really, just one: text messages and phone calls.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
it.
That's
Right?
it.
All right. When it comes to news and social media sites, I want to see what you think of this. I'm going to make up a number here, but I think you set your limit to about 30 minutes. That makes you really, enjoy and appreciate every second that you're checking Instagram or just checking the headlines and making sure that nothing, blew up when you weren't looking. It will just make you appreciate checking, but not obsessing.
I'm going to do that moving forward. 30 minutes is my daily limit. You can set it in your iPhone at least. And you have the opportunity to say, no, I'm gonna blow past it. Let me go. So it's not like you're truly trapped. But that's my goal. And then not only that, but it'll inspire me to, if I'm gonna get onto Instagram, get in, get through it, do it quickly. Don't just sit there spinning and wasting time, etc. If you have a post, get a post done, boom. But get out of it, right? And so just that 30-minute time limit, I think, will be good guardrails for me personally to not fall into the trap of just wasting time and brain calories on nonsense.
Okay, here's a good one. All right, so let's see if we can converge on a number live here. When it comes to Spotify and podcasts, I think there's value to it. Like, I need Spotify at the gym. Nothing wrong with podcasts, like the Betterment experiment. I'm saying an hour a day, plus or minus.
Okay, an hour a day. Let's see how that goes. I think moving forward, an hour a day. Because, when you're in the car, even when I'm in the car with my kids, they're using Spotify.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So maybe it really depends. It really depends. But
1 hour a day,
But
I think,
definitely
is
not
max.
infinite, because otherwise you just, you're constantly distracted by it all day. Way too much. And then finally, when it comes to work apps, I think that really depends.
It depends. Hey, there's work. Let me talk about. There's work apps like Google Sheets and Google Docs, the stuff where you're going in and making stuff, or the stuff that you always need to have on, like if you use Google Hangouts for a meeting, you can't not use that if you have a meeting, right? But I think that leaves open-ended the stuff that you got to be reactive to, the email, the Slack, etc. That's where the tough choice is, right?
Yep.
Hey, which is a great transition because that brings us to our next debate, which is going to be all about extreme email techniques and how we're going to deal with email. We all agree here when we say email, we mean email and Slack, right? If you're using Slack, it's sort of taking part of the whole ecosystem.
Yes, for the sake of this conversation. Let's get into it after a break.
All right, so let's get to this week's debate. So first, remember this theme is all about email productivity. We're going to pitch each other on 2 extreme ways not to be overwhelmed by email and to be an email hero.
So listen closely because you are going to vote on which email management technique we implement on vote.getrocketbook.com. And please pick mine because I'm sure Joe's is going to be crazy even though I haven't heard it yet.
No, they're going to want to pick mine. Mine is email time blocking. Okay.
I can imagine what it is by the description, but go ahead, pitch me.
So we're going to set 3 recurring calendar invites, 1 in the morning, 1 midday, 1 at the end of the day, to just go through our email during those times and only during those times. Turn off notifications on your email. The rest of the day is yours. Get out of your inbox, get your stuff done, build relationships, change the world. It's email now on your terms. You're the hero of your day. Conquer your email. Conquer your day.
Okay, I think I got it. And before I try to tear it to shreds, which I want to.
What's wrong? Go ahead.
Let me just pitch you on mine, and then we can have a discussion about which one will be more productive for us. How's that? So I picked a more conventional one, and that is Inbox Zero. I'm sure you probably heard of it because you listen to a lot of podcasts. Mm-hmm. So the idea is this. The idea is this. Every time you open your email inbox, which should be set times per day, but every time you open it, you get your inbox to 0. So that is to say, you delete all the emails you don't need. That's like spam, things from like salespeople, things like that. You forward anything that needs to be forwarded off, like, oh, this shouldn't be me. You forward it off to the appropriate person. Anything under 2 minutes to respond, you respond immediately. Hey, yeah, that sounds good. Thanks for checking in. And then anything over 2 minutes to respond, you put in another folder inside your Gmail or whatever called requires response, or you can make up your own name. And then when you have time, but definitely every day, at the end of the day, you clean out that requires response. So the end result is a totally clean inbox, nothing left in there. And the idea is that it's lower stress because you know that there's absolutely nothing in there that's like burning and gonna catch on fire.
I gotta say, I think I know that people swear by, or they claim that they achieve inbox zero. My 2 problems with it is, one, I just think it's a bad idea. I think that in what universe should you give the rest of the world access to your to-do list, and now you have to shuffle through it, and it's on you to get down to inbox zero, no matter what crap people throw at you?
Listen, man, like you're saying, give the rest of the world access to your to-do list, but if it snows, then your to-do list is shoveling snow, right? Like stuff comes in, you got to deal with it.
Yeah, but if a sales rep emails me about some compelling SaaS solution to help with my bookkeeping,
then you press delete, you get it right out of there.
Maybe it's sort of compelling, and maybe someday I'll get to it, maybe I won't, I don't know. But you know what? It's not my job to like take this as a to-do to process it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look through the unread stuff at the top of my email address. I'm going to eyeball which ones came from, people on my leadership team, my wife, maybe you I'll get
This
to.
is honestly this.
And then I'll click on what I want, and the nonsense I won't click on, and I'll just leave it there. And that's why my email inbox right now is about 6,572.
This conversation is illuminating and it's therapeutic because now I understand why you don't write me back most of the time.
Yeah, that's why.
Because listen, man, I got bad news. You're using your inbox like a social media feed. Like you just go in there and you like surf around for interesting looking subject lines that you want to read the email of. But you're the CEO of Rocketbook.
Let me clarify.
You got to get through these things because someone might have written you something important, and like that's an understatement.
Somehow we've managed to ship 3 million books this year. And my inbox hasn't stopped that. So, but wait, you have this special inbox that you call what? I'm gonna get back to this person.
Requires a response.
Requires response. You move things over to that, right?
That's right, yes.
So you haven't done anything. You've basically shuffled inbox 0 to inbox 1 million.
No,
you're just putting them in this thing called required response later.
That's how you would normally use inbox 0. You would just take all your 6,000 emails and put them over there. The idea is that you filter through them, and I want to be clear about this. The idea is that you go through each one and you read each one, unlike it sounds like what you're doing with your email, and then you process them on the fly, as opposed to, again, using it as a Twitter feed.
So when the sales rep at HubSpot emails me for the 5th time,
you press delete.
I have to do something about that.
Mark a spam.
All right. Well, definitely, right? No offense to our friends at HubSpot, it's a great tool, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that's pretty much it, right? So I think we can wrap up.
Yours is a bad idea. Mine's a good idea because it's email on my terms. It's my tool. I'm going to conquer email during my time, and then I'm going to be left to conquer the day. Yours is a terrible idea because you're the slave to the inbox. But it's not up to me or you. The audience can now vote based on my description at vote.getrocketbook.com. Did I sum it up pretty well?
Pretty close, but let me give it a shot. Given how unstructured you are at processing your email, apparently,
why is this about me?
You need very rigid structure, and I think most people do too. And it will help me as well. Although, listening to you, I think I might have some better habits. So I'll summarize yours in the most polite way possible. So Joe says email time blocking, where you set 3 times on your calendar to go through your email every day, with one big one at the end of the day. And other than that, you just don't look at your inbox. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you want to describe inbox 0 to make sure that you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's insanity. It's sanity 0. Okay.
All right. I will describe
You're
inbox
a slave
0.
to your inbox. You must get it down to 0. Every day or constantly?
Anytime you go through your email, you process every single message in one of 3 ways,
This
including
is
a process later bin.
Wait, one question for you. I've got about almost 7,000 things in my primary email inbox. What do I do right now? I mean, if I take 10 seconds to go through each one, I think that is 20-ish hours worth of work. So guys, I'm gonna have to take off the first part of next week.
You know what? I have a suggestion for you. And this is an extreme suggestion, but honestly, man, you have 7,000 items in your. Is that a real stat?
Yeah, but after the end of this, you're gonna have 7,000 things in your respond to later box. Like, what's the difference?
I have a real suggestion for you. All right, there's a thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called declaring email bankruptcy. Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it.
So here's what you do, right? Just check this out. I honestly think that you're a good candidate for this. You download all your contacts from Gmail. Okay, you send out one.
How many do you have in your inbox before you start pointing fingers?
Hundreds, not thousands.
We're gonna check on that and get back in the next episode. We're gonna report on this.
That's fine. So you download all your contacts from Gmail, right? Then you send one mass BCC email that says, "I have declared email bankruptcy." If you've emailed me and I have not got your email, you need to send me another email, and then you just delete your entire inbox, and then you start over, man. It's email bankruptcy, and you need it, big time.
How about I just delete everything or archive everything and don't send that email out to everybody. Just like people, if it's important, people will follow up. And if not, whatever. Yeah,
just like your Instagram feed. Just like scroll by it, right? Who knows? I'm sure no one wrote the CEO of Rocketbook anything important. What can it be, right? Yeah. All right, well, look, we both have strong opinions, but that's why we're going to let you, our listeners, decide which one sounds the most interesting to try. So you're going to want to go to vote.getrocketbook.com and vote on which extreme email hack we're implementing. And we're going to debrief our next episode, but for now, thanks for joining this episode of the Betterment Experiment.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Betterment Experiment with Jake and Joe, the founders of Rocketbook. Head over to vote.getrocketbook.com, cast your vote to decide which experiment we'll test out and tell you about in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. It's a great way to support the podcast, and we do appreciate it. Email us your comments, questions, experiment suggestions to podcast@getrocketbook.com. Follow Rocketbook on Instagram and Twitter, we're @GetRocketbook. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/GetRocketbook. And then find us at youtube.com/Rocketbook. Thanks again for listening, and tune in next episode to better yourself.